Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Today is our Memorial Day celebration number 340. I missed a few mark for doing this. Michael will explain a little more of that in a minute. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to Michael. And we welcome Michael to the show. Hi.
Thank you, sweetie, and welcome to the show, everybody. Are you having trouble hearing me?
It's quiet.
Okay, but is it okay? Am I coming across clearly? Or we're still working on technical difficulties here, so welcome to the show, everybody, and our Memorial Day celebration is about getting to the point where we, as a species, eradicate war from planet Earth. That's one of our goals in doing this work. The purpose of this radio show is to bring the Aramaic ideas of forgiveness to every mind, heart, and being on the planet so that we can stop playing this game of somebody else being to blame for what's happening inside of us and instead learn how to remove the root of the pain, the disturbance, the turmoil that's happening inside of us. And so that's where we want to head today. And, of course, how is that going to impact war? Well, of course, you don't have war without blame. And if you know that you're responsible for what's happening inside of you, then you can stop the blame game. You can stop the excuses and the stories and all the things that we do to try to make somebody else responsible for what's going on inside of us. And if you're not familiar with that technology, on the right-hand side of our website, you'll see a link. Go to www.whyagain.com, and there's a link that says Download Worksheets. And if you just click on that link, it will give you the whole story of how forgiveness works as it was taught originally in the ancient Aramaic language. So I invite you to go to our website. The first 7 links will give you the whole picture, including 4 different radio shows where we walk somebody step by step through the worksheet process in terms of learning how to change what's happening inside of us. And so we welcome you to the show, and we're delighted that you're here. Jeannie, is the sound coming through all right, or is it really too quiet? It's okay? All right, well, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room? Well, our call-in number is 646-200-4169, 646-200-4169, and we invite you to pick up and call into the show. If you have a question for us, if you have a thought, we've been really moving forward with a group of folks who did actually 2 groups who did 9-day intensive workshops in Palm Coast, Florida. We had an awesome time over there just a couple of weeks ago, and we're getting ready to head to Jacksonville Unity. We'll be starting there on Sunday, and as of Sunday we'll have, 7 workshops, 6 free workshops, 1 workshop that we do charge a fee for, and that will begin on this Sunday. So Sunday morning we'll do 2 Sunday morning services, and Sunday afternoon we'll do Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And then Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night will be free workshops. And we'll head from there into the 1 workshop we do charge a fee for, Mindshifters and Still Point Breathing. When we travel, that's the only one that we have a fee involved in. It's an all-day, very deeply process-oriented workshop. pretty amazing gathering of folks when we tap in on that level with mind shifters and still point breathing. So if you're in the area of Jacksonville, Florida, we'd be delighted if you'd come and join us for some of those workshops. And then we'll be actually taking some time off to write, and we'll be announcing some other workshops. We're just talking with a couple different folks right now about where we might be heading next. And back to Heartland, and on the 12th of July, the 12th to the 21st of July, we'll start a 10-day food, fun, forgiveness, and work project at Heartland. Each summer when we get ready to begin our intensive season, we have what we usually call a work week. Well, we've changed around a little bit. Ari suggested that he would come with some awesome new recipes, and so this time we'll be spending more time in the kitchen with the food, fun, forgiveness, and work projects. We'll be doing some work with Ari each day, learning from this man who's just such a food encyclopedia. It's amazing, and he's the one who set up all of our recipes at Heartland. Absolutely extraordinary chef, and so we'll be doing that. It's kind of an economy program, and the whole process, we'll be doing evening workshops. We're planning to do 2 mind shifters and still point breathing sessions during that 10 days. And the whole process is an economy program. It's $750 for the whole 10 days for everything, food, accommodations, workshop materials, the whole works. And so that'll be our starting point at Heartland for our 2012 Heartland program season. And then we'll move from that. We'll actually take a day off, and then July 23rd to the 31st, we'll do a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And then move into the next phase of our intensive process, which will begin on July 31st. So July 31st to August 8th. We'll begin teachers training for people who want to take this work into the field and teach it to others, or just to deepen their own experience of it. The actual teachers training is a full 17-day program, but we divide it into 2 parts, 2 separate 9-day parts. If somebody's already done a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive, then they're qualified to come in and just do the second 9-day. And or if you want to review, we've got some specials on reviewing those workshops. In fact, if someone wants to come and review either the Why or the teachers training this year, it's the first time we've done this. Things have been kind of strange at Heartland the last 3 or 4 years since this whole economic game has started. And we set intensives up out in the field, and people go crazy, and we're full and within days. And then at Heartland, we just aren't seeing as many people as we used to. So I don't know whether it's travel or what's involved in that. But so we're creating an incentive this year to review either the Why Is This Happening to Me Again or the teachers training. We're going to do that at 50% off. So instead of being $1,575, the cost for food, accommodations, workshops, workshop materials, everything for 9 days is going to be $785. Or if someone's done the whole teachers training previously, we're going to be discounting the review of the teachers training for all 18 days or 17 days to $1,500 instead of $3,150 would be the normal price. So it's a little less than half. And or if someone registers for the Food, Fun, and Forgiveness and Work project, then they can review either or both intensives for $575 each. So we're cutting it down as much as we can possibly do it, in the hopes that you'll come and play and join us at Heartland for our intensive season. And Jeannie, do we have anything happening in the chat room? Any comments or questions or any callers?
We do have a caller on the line. Oh, they just disappeared. Okay, caller, you were out there. Please press 1. Put you back in queue again. You just disappeared. David, so they're calling back. If they're very.
You're getting in and out, Jeannie. I don't know what's happening.
You heard me.
So someone was in queue with a question, and you disappeared, and if you'd call back in and dial once again, we'll be glad to chat with you. Our call-in number is 646-200-5600. 4169. Did we lose them?
Yes, they hung up or something, so they need to call back in.
Okay. If you're in queue trying to get into the phone system and you've pushed 1, that should put you into our queue line, but we've been having troubles the last couple of days, so if you've tried to do that, you're not showing up, and if you would just try hanging up and redialing, we'll just see if we can catch you the second time around. We've had some strange
Area
things
code
happening with our...
Area code 301, you're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Michael. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Who am I speaking with? Where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Virginia, and I'm going to put my name as Gray today.
Okay.
Because I'm not
How are
a
you,
black
Gray?
and white thinker. I think in the gray. So when I'm around black and white thinkers,
okay.
I always wear gray.
Well, maybe when we're finished, you'll be bright and shining, vibrant colors.
I'm not too sure about that.
Okay. How can we support you? What's happening?
Well, your show is on forgiveness. How do you forgive a molester who was set free?
We suggest that you never forgive that molester. We suggest that you never forgive anyone, yourself or anyone else included. It's a big mistake to do that, and that's not forgiveness. So it's a great question because it's the kind of thing, and of course it doesn't have to be something as extreme as molestation, but anything. We've been taught by the Greek philosophers, oftentimes pretending to be Christian, that forgiveness is about how I let somebody else off the hook for the pain or turmoil or trauma that I'm experiencing. And what we're offering to you is that the original Aramaic idea of forgiveness had nothing whatsoever to do with letting someone else or yourself off the hook because you're in some kind of pain or turmoil. But rather, forgiveness is the tool with which you go inside yourself and remove the pain and turmoil that you hold inside of you so that you can return to the awesome being that you're designed to be. And the way we establish what each being is designed for is just hold a newborn child. You know exactly who you're designed to be. And if our experiences in life and our genetics and our training defiles us and takes us out of that state, then what's needed is restoration. Forgiveness is about restoration. It's about restoring you and I and everybody we contact, interestingly enough, including the molester, to the original state of our true being. Then we can stop this game of having everybody else at fault for what's going on inside of us and begin to function as we were truly designed to function. Now,
what if it was
it's
what if it was a 4-year-old that was molested by a cousin that was 42 years old, and they closed the case? What then?
Well,
what would you do if it was your child? Would you go further, or would you just let it go and offer it up?
Well, the first order of business I would offer would be that I'd recognize that I have pain about it, and I'd start working on cleaning up my pain. And I have a whole story about why my rage or my punishment of them is totally justified. And I'd start by cleaning up my own inner process. And then returned to the state of my newborn humanness, the state of love of what I am, I might pick up the phone and call the police and hold them accountable for their behavior. You know, one of my early mentors was a man named Judge Asa D. Kelly. Asa Kelly was a Superior Court judge in Albany, Georgia. Albany, Georgia is a pretty rough town. It's probably one of the roughest towns in the whole state of Georgia. And in Georgia, they put, I think it's the second, more people in prison than any state in the union except for Arizona. And some horrendous stuff happens there. And Judge Kelly would have someone who committed a heinous crime, such as the one you're talking about, come before him. And he would explain how the community had taken up a collection to build a building with a set of bars to protect people in the community from those who are not safe in the community. And that they had asked Judge Kelly to decide who was safe in the community and who wasn't. And if he decided that someone was not safe in the community, he never once punished one of them, though he locked thousands of people away over his tenure on the bench. He would say, I love you like a brother, and you're not safe in my community. I love my community too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock you away so that our community is safe. And by the way, if as my brother you would like to be healed, if you'd like to go through some rehabilitation, we will also sentence you to a course. We actually, a fellow named Dan McDougall and myself created a course called Laws of Living, where we would take offenders of all kinds, and we cut the prison population by over 90% with this course because it restored people to who they were. Now, here's what I know about the abuser. The abuser was abused, and perhaps that abuser's mother could have made this phone call 40 or 39 years ago and said, what do I do? My child has just been abused by his 42-year-old uncle. What should I do to that uncle? And I could rage and scream and say, you should just, castrate him. And that's what a lot of people call for. Or I could recognize there's a family pattern here, been going on for a long time, and maybe I'm going to want to get big enough to clean up the family pattern. And I'll do that by letting go of and cleaning up my rage, my fear, my guilt, my feeling of responsibility or whatever's going on for me, and then working, with perhaps the court system and holding somebody accountable, and then I go to work with my child. And I'd be teaching my child the forgiveness process so that any trauma, any pain, any self-deprecation that the child felt could be healed, and in a generation clean out this type of abuse that's so bizarre and so insane in our culture. So that would be my answer to what to do with it.
Well,
does that make sense?
It does, and I like your process. And actually, I'm a columnist, and I want to stay anonymous on this call, so I'm not in.
Sure, that's fine. Of course.
But I wanted to get a clear explanation from a professional. What had ended up happening is that it was a 42-year-old cousin that went after my 4-year-old daughter, and my 4-year-old daughter was the one that said, "This is what's happening." I was the last to find out. There were no signs at all. So, I went through the blaming process for a little while, and then I had to stop blaming myself because you had to quickly get in survival mode. I got my daughter and I into a safe house that same day. I played dumb. I got out of the house, and I cut all ties with all family completely. I lost 20 family members. So no one standed behind a 4-year-old. They standed behind him and the family name. What ended up happening was that I had to follow protocol, and within 3 weeks, since my daughter was fighting a culture, within 3 weeks, we lost all physical evidence. Now, everyone believed my daughter, don't get me wrong. All the police officers, everybody that was on the case. However, there was not enough evidence for the state's attorney's office to hold him liable and accountable. He was looking at 25 to life. They shut the entire case down. Both cases are shut. And so even though she may be facing post-traumatic stress disorder, which she's actually getting tested for now, due to the violent nature of the crime, that won't hold up in the court system. So depending on, say, in Georgia, you said, they would lock them up and throw away the key, whereas in other states, they won't. The state's attorney's office will let it go. So now my church and my pastor and all of us are praying that he doesn't go after someone else. That was the first thing I said. I said, what happens to the next person that's in line? Because we already know that he was probably abused. He was molested. Yes. But now my 4-year-old is left almost as a victim. Now she's the one that's undergoing therapy and post-traumatic stress disorder at 4 and, night terrors and all this. And then this guy walks free. So I was like, okay, well, God must think I'm really freaking strong, because for the last month and a half, I've watched her day in and day out go through all these channels of emotion. So, in calling the police in a closed case, nothing's going to happen. All I can do is get a peace order. Then you end up going in front of a judge, and then you have to see all these people again.
Right.
And it's hard.
Well,
it's no fun.
Yeah, I worked with a woman in South Florida several years ago when I had a practice there, who had a daughter who was about that age, I think it was 5, and was molested by a neighbor across the road.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they were very careful with the daughter, being aware of forgiveness and aware of the harm that can be done after the molestation, because if everybody who approaches the child is totally traumatized, just energetically, the trauma added to the child can be as bad as or worse than the original event. And so as a mom, I would strongly, strongly urge you to tap into the forgiveness process, start doing worksheets around this whole issue. We've had children as young as 4 successfully using the forgiveness process, and rather than putting them into a system where there are a number of people who have not resolved their own sexual abuse issues, perhaps they too have been perpetrators, or perhaps they too have been abused, then rather than throwing the child to a system that's filled with the energy of fear and terror and rage and grief and pain, you want to bring the child into a system that's filled with the active presence of love and the act of forgiveness, so that the trauma instilled in the child is removed rather than reinforced. That would be the biggest thing. And, of course, as a mom, you're going to have one of the most. I certainly hear loud and clear your position, and it's certainly a tough position to be in. But the first order of business I'd go to is taking that forgiveness worksheet process we just talked about on our website, starting to fill in the blanks and clean out your own trauma. You can be the one who is the pivot point for changing this dynamic in your family system. As I said earlier, I bet you could go back, and I think you reinforced that as to where this 42-year-old man was probably sexually traumatized as a child as well, whether he was abused by another or whatever happened. And when we start understanding that what we need to do is rid ourselves of abuse, adding more abuse to the abuser just adds and puts more abuse energy into our planet and into our human family. It's time for us to start to delete and remove the abuse energy, the pain, the trauma, the fear.
Right.
So that would be my take on the first order of business.
That would be through therapy, and that's what I already started, because so many places do play therapy and things like that. And they told me the things that she could be looking at and facing, and we don't know if she's young enough to forget about this, but, a simple hat can trigger everything and bring back all those memories, and it's a tough dynamic, because, I have to. I walked away from 15 to 20 family members on this who did not support me standing by my 4-year-old daughter. And there were teachers and so many people that said, we believe her. She's said what has happened, and we believe it to be true. However, state's attorneys would not move forward.
Right. So I would offer again that the place to start would be with yourself and some of the forgiveness worksheet process that we're talking about.
Now, where can I find those?
You can go to www.whyagain.com, whyagain.com, and on the right-hand side, about 6 links down, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. Under that link, there are a whole list of different worksheets, but the first 7 links will give you the whole Aramaic forgiveness process. We'll show you exactly how to go inside yourself and delete the fear, the rage, the grief, the guilt, the pain, and to begin to guide your daughter through understanding how to remove those things so there's nothing left to be triggered. That's
Right.
the idea of actual forgiveness. It's how you go inside yourself and remove those things that can be triggered into activity again and again and end up controlling a person's whole life. And sadly, our culture lost contact several hundred years ago with the actual forgiveness dynamic and had it replaced with this Greek dynamic of pardoning. So most of the culture plays the game of, well, I guess I'll just have to forgive them. I'll let them off the hook. No, please don't let them off the hook. Hold them accountable whatever way you need to, but hold them accountable out of a connected mind of love. And it sounds like you've got the right direction happening with your pastor there with you, supporting you. And if they can assist you and assist your daughter in opening and letting loose of, and that forgiveness process is precisely what Yeshua taught 2,000 years ago on how to do that, then all trauma related to that event, physical, mental, and emotional, can be removed from that little form, and she can move on as the delightful newborn energy that she was designed to be. You know, Yeshua says, be as a little child. We need to return to that original innocence that we had designed into us. And you do that by removing what does not belong, and that's the forgiveness process. And we have had children as young as 4. If you look further down the list, you'll see children's worksheets. The ones that are on the first several links, that's the adult worksheet. That would be one for you to work with. And then further down, you'll see a children's worksheet. And we've had children as young as 4 with help of actually, in one case, I know of a 9-year-old sister helping her 4-year-old brother to work through some forgiveness work. And so
Wow.
you can teach her that and show her how to let go of that trauma. And anytime something like that surfaces, the forgiveness process is the way to remove that.
I have had also, I guess my last question would be, I've had other people say you need to pick a place on the globe and just go. Where have you ever wanted to live? Because most of my family lives in the surrounding areas, within 20 minutes to 45 minutes away.
Right.
What is your recommendation to people that have gone through this where cases have been closed and you don't know what's going to happen next? Would it be, a lot of people would say it would be a geographical cure. However, don't you think there would be more triggers in the environment that would cause that trauma to come back again?
Well, again, here's my input. First of all, if there's a trauma in there, hiding it away, drugging it out of sight, pretending it's not there is one of the most unhealthy things that you can do, because that trauma resident in tissue begins the degeneration of the tissue structure in which it's stored. So my input again would be to teach your daughter to learn yourself the forgiveness process, and as you move through that, actually purposely go to a place. Once you're in a good space, in a connected space, go to a place where there is a trigger for that. And as that trigger happens, then forgive, then remove the energy that's triggered until there's nothing left in the structure that holds trauma about that event. The geographic cure, you of course you have a right. If your guidance is I need to pick up and move, you certainly have every right to do that. And cutting the whole family system off, taking the time to enter into the forgiveness process yourself, and perhaps getting family members to begin to work with, do that. And this family would be one of the greatest contributions. In our culture, we're not trained or taught what it is that we're handed when we're handed a genetic bloodline, but we are handed one of the most precious possessions, more than the old joke of the family jewels involved here. You were given structure to your whole family's history in it. And as you become conscious and aware of things like sexual abuse within the family genetics, as you do your work, you can become the one who opens a space for that to be removed, so that not only doesn't your daughter have to experience it again, but the next generation and the next and the next. So, you know,
Right.
if for instance, if this man is sent to prison over this
He's
event,
not.
let's
He's
imagine
not.
that. Well, but imagine
I
that
mean,
he were.
basically, there's nothing that holds him.
Got it.
He's walking
Got it.
free. So
Got
I mean,
it.
I'm looking
Got
at
it.
it. I'm looking at 20 family members that are within a realm of 45 minutes or less. Some are even 15 miles away. So
Right.
when you talk about removing that trauma, removing that physical, mental, emotional trauma, that, you know, I can do that. You know, I'm, you know, and I can pray for God's will in my life, and I can work on that. However, when it takes a hat and an article of clothing for it to trigger it for a 4-year-old, then what? I mean, I could show up at a park and re-trigger it again.
Teach the child forgiveness. I don't think you've heard
Right.
that yet. Teach the child how to process and deal. You know, the game of life, especially in many family systems, can be pretty tough. If we
Yeah.
bring a child into the world and we don't give them the skills with which to process through those things, that those children tend to just go downhill into the good old family feeling and live within the traumas of the family system. Your child at the age of 4 is of an age where they can begin to learn to process through these energies. Let me share a story. We have our teaching center is in the Ozarks in southern Missouri. We had a family who became involved in our work, who were local in the Ozarks, and there was a young boy in the family we met him first at the age of 5. And if he were to be diagnosed within a psychiatric office or within the school system, they would say this child was behavior disordered, learning disabled, probably attention deficit disorder. He was a holy terror when we met him. His parents became engaged in this work, and actually the father came and did a year program at Heartland, lived at Heartland and did his work, began to teach the tools to the family, and the next year the mother came and did the program for a year. Well, Dad stayed home with the kids. And by this time, the second year when the mom was resident at Heartland and doing the support team program, the father would bring the children over. There were 4 children. And at this point, the young man is now 7. We're doing an intensive workshop. We have a teaching center there, and it's kind of L-shaped. And so the 4 kids are over in the corner playing by themselves, and we're doing an intensive workshop. So they're quiet and you know, not really, at least it doesn't seem, paying any attention. And one of the people in the intensive spoke up about how somebody really made them angry. And this young man, who's now at 7, 2 years after his parents being introduced to this work and his parents working with him, is one of the most well-mannered, one of the most intelligent and settled children I've ever seen at the age of 7. They're over quietly, 4 of them playing in the corner, no disturbance whatsoever. And this person speaks out about how such and such really made them angry. And this little guy who, you know, I didn't even realize he was listening, he just pipes up right out loud and offers the adult correction. And the way he did that is he spoke about one of his experiences. And he just piped up out of the blue. When this person says such and such really made me angry, he pipes up just out of the blue and says, well, just this morning, my sister, she bringed my anger up. In other words, here's a child of 7 who knows he's responsible for his own anger, that somebody else doesn't make him angry. And I was shocked that, you know, just out of the blue, he offers this correction to the adult who's blaming somebody else for their anger. And I turned to him and said, well, what did you do then? And he says, I just asked my mother for a worksheet. At 7.
Wow,
that's children,
amazing.
You can teach the children how to process and handle the energies of anger and rage and grief and guilt and pain and offense and everything that you can imagine. And they will live a life where they're like butter. It will just slide off of them. They won't play with the negative aspect because there's no resonance for that in them. And my input is that you can be the one who can take this precious genetic structure that you have with recognized sexual abuse within it, and you can be the spearhead of cleaning that up in your family genetics so that that dynamic can be finished for your whole bloodline for all of time. Right. Not an easy task, not an easy assignment, but it sounds like with the intelligence that you have that perhaps it's an assignment that you're ready to take on, and maybe that's part of why this experience is in your face.
Yeah, you know, I looked at my pastor yesterday, and I said, you know, I see so many people struggling around me, and I said maybe God's raising up prophets or something, because I can't question anything, and usually I wake up every morning and God and I have a talk, and the other morning when I got the news, the day after, when I was up until 1 a.m. just weeping because, you know, justice wasn't served, I said, God, I really don't have anything to say this morning. And I turned that around within a half hour, and I did have something to say. And it's okay to be mad at God. And but I was able to take it to another level. And being able to channel that negative energy is really important, too. And so I'm learning that as a mother. You know, I got a new pair of running shoes, and I'm going to start running with my daughter. I'm going to start, you know, letting her channel out some of that energy, running it out. And I will commit to those worksheets, too, because it sounds like it's
awesome.
Changing lives. What you are doing is changing lives. So please don't stop doing it for people in the gray like me today.
We're committed. Every mind, heart, and being on the planet is our commitment. That's what we're here to do, and you can rest assured that tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, we'll be here teaching it. And, you know, as you dig into the worksheet process, if you have questions, if you have stuck points, if you have things you need to understand about it, we're absolutely delighted to be here to support you. That's the whole purpose of this radio show. And download that child's worksheet. There's actually a book written by a kindergarten grade 1 teacher, Julie Haverstick, who lives at Heartland. She's been doing this work for about 25 years, worked within the Dayton inner city school system, and she turned some lives around in ways you just cannot imagine. I mean, kids coming into the classroom, getting down on their hands and knees the first day in class and going around barking like a dog and biting other children's ankles.
Wow.
8 weeks later, this boy who was 8, he's in grade 1, he's 8 years old, he's had so much trauma, he's been held back twice, and he's in grade 1. And 8 weeks later, he was her star pupil, and he was helping other children to do the forgiveness worksheet process. Her book is Healing Children, Loving Children.
How can I reach you and your wife? How can I do that?
How can you reach us?
Yes.
5 days a week from 1 till 2 o'clock Eastern Time. We're right here on the phone. You can go to our website, and if you hit any of the communication email addresses, that email will go to Jeannie, and she'll get your information, and any questions you have, we'll be glad to respond to them.
Okay,
and
that's
the book
great.
Healing Children, Loving Children. Yeah, the book Healing Children, Loving Children by Julie Haverstick is currently out of print. It will be back in print within a few weeks, and that will give you a whole curriculum with which to work with these tools with your daughter.
Healing Children and Loving Children. All right. Well, I thank you so much, and just pray for my little girl. Pray for me, and as hard as it may be, I have to pray for the person that harmed her because I'm praying for that. We're actually praying as a church family that he doesn't go after anyone else.
Well, here let me just offer a thought here.
I'm
we are
not
energetic
there yet,
beings.
though.
Yeah. Well, but we are energetic beings. If I pray for don't go after anyone else, the thing I'm supporting in the world is going after someone else. I would reframe my prayer into pray for or hold the space for him opening to his responsibility and healing and caring for and being respectful of children that he comes into contact with. Yeah. You'll be 1,000 times more powerful. Remember, go back to Yeshua's words. He says, every idle word will be accounted for. When I say I want to make sure they don't ever do that again, My idle words are about them doing that again, and I become part of the energetic support of them doing it again. When I get really conscious and clear about what it is that I want to create, then it doesn't just become idle words that I become accountable for, but it becomes powerful words, and the words that move in the direction of opening the space for integrity and healing within our whole family system, within our genetics, within all family members, is what will start to move the energy in the right direction. And you will be amazed at the kinds of changes that you'll see happen around you as you move in that direction.
Well, I thank you so much for your time, and I thank you for your creative energy, and bless you guys for having this show. It really changed my life today.
Awesome. Well, we're here to support you, and as you start doing those worksheets, any questions, please feel free to call, and we'll be right there 100% as support for you. And we hold you in our hearts and in the space of wisdom and connectedness and healing. And
Thank
to your
you
daughter,
so much.
too.
Have a wonderful day.
Lots of love. All right, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye. Definitely major challenge, and I acknowledge your courage for being able to have this conversation that we just had. Most mothers would be so distraught that they could not even hear the conversation we just had, and so I am honored that you called in, and I acknowledge your willingness and your wisdom to be able to hear and to think in terms other than what our culture thinks of. You know, when you recognize the dynamic of the fact that we are energetic beings, you know, there's a statement the physicist Yeshua makes, and he says, resist not evil. Well, what does that mean? It means that if I fight against something that I don't want, my focus as a creative being is on that which I don't want, and I become a creator of it. You know, if you look at, for instance, the whole country, if you look at an abuser is brought forward into public awareness, and what does virtually everyone want to do with the abuser? They want to abuse them. And so if an event happens and there's abuse involved, and then you have 100 million people standing back watching that abuse, cursing that abuser, wanting to punish and destroy, then you just intensify the energetic dynamic of abuse a million times over. And the person who perhaps has within them the possibility of abuse but would never go there, all of a sudden, because this energy field has become so strong by everybody fighting against it, the person who would never be an abuser all of a sudden has this unconscious urge that comes forward on an energetic level to participate in abuse. So it's time for us to recognize that we are energetic beings and that we can change this energetic dynamic of insanity that governs our planet. Human beings are not designed to abuse each other. They're not designed to punish each other. You know, interestingly enough, you listen in the culture and the word discipline is thought of as, well, you have to discipline the child. And it's like, it's almost like it's, well, you have to properly beat them up and then they'll be good kids. Well, the root of the word discipline is disciple. It doesn't mean properly beat up. It means properly taught. And, you know, Karl Marx says you want to destroy a culture, change the meaning of its words. There's so many words that have been turned around backward, and people are befuddled and have no idea what they're doing to themselves and others with the words of hostility, fear, and destruction. When we as humans, you know, again, go to the physicist Yeshua, and he says the power of life and death is in our words. The kinds and qualities of words we use are of key importance to our life process. And so that's what we're here to support you in doing. And Jeannie, I'm just let's check in and see if we have any callers or any questions, anything happening in the chat room.
No, we have no questions. Nobody else has their hand up. If you're calling in, somebody just pressed 1. Area code 901, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
901, welcome to the show. Who are we speaking to? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Memphis. This is Lanice. I've been listening for a while.
Awesome.
And
how are you, young lady?
Not good. Well, I'm good, but I've got areas that need straightening.
How can we support you?
Well, I'd like to come to the intensive July 12th, and I need a number where I can get more information.
Okay, well, my cell number, and we ask people to use it gingerly. It's not out there for just, any call, any time. But if you want to ask some questions about the intensive, my cell number is 954-205-4996. 954-205-4996. And if you go to our website, whyagain.com, you'll see a link that says Intensives, Heartland Intensives. And just click on that. It'll give you all the details, and we'll be happy to chat and get you set up to be registered. That would be awesome.
Yes, I really need to come. I think this is just an awesome, awesome program, and it's something, as far as forgiveness is concerned, it's a new concept of what it really is, and I really get that, and I've just got so much work to do right now. I've gotten to a place of anxiety and fear.
Well, and if you're in that space of anxiety and fear and you start to apply that forgiveness process to it, then you'll start to change that dynamic within yourself. We had a young lady who was at our intensive 2 weeks ago. She was on the show, I think, we finished on the I think maybe the 24th or 25th. I'm not sure how it's identified, but she called in, and before the intensive, she said she had lived, I asked her on a scale of 1 to 100 what her level of fear was, and she said it was 100, and that she'd lived that way for 3+ decades in her life since she was a child. And she called in to tell us how the sky was 3D. She'd never seen a 3D sky before, and the clouds and the beauty of that and everything else, and that she had just moved through so much. And I would suggest that you start putting the pen to the paper with that reality management forgiveness process, even in advance of coming to the intensive, and get that energy moving, and then there'll be a whole boost in energy moving forward in getting to the point where you live a life totally, completely free of that energy.
Well, that's what I want.
Well, we're here to support you in it. Is there anything at this moment specifically that we can do to support you? Any questions? Have you been doing the worksheet process?
Yeah, I've done the worksheet. I began to manifest some physical symptoms. It's like when I went to the doctor for a routine checkup, and they checked my blood pressure, and I kind of always feared them because of people in my family having it. And when they checked mine, my heart rate goes up my heart starts pounding in my chest, and then the blood pressure goes up, so now I can't. And then when I take it, it does the same thing, so I have to take it so many times until it comes down to get a regular one, a normal blood pressure.
Well, the young lady who, and if she happens to be listening to the show, maybe she'd call in and share a little bit with you, but she sat one day in the intensive with her heart just pounding out of her chest, just, these heart palpitations, which is something she'd had all along. And she went through 2 episodes of that, and we showed her how to breathe and how to forgive. And on the 3rd episode, the 4th episode of that, she was just able to breathe and let it go, and boom, heart palpitations gone, just totally back to normal, and left the intensive. Now, not that she's finished by any stretch of the imagination, but huge, huge movement in progress. And as I say, you can tap in. I don't know, Jeannie, how that show is labeled where Linda called in, but if you happen to know, perhaps it would be useful for you to listen to. I don't know if you heard that show last week, but it was pretty awesome to hear her explaining the shifts that were happening. But I'd take that worksheet process, and I'd be putting the pen to the paper at least 5 times a day and start to process through that energy.
Yeah, because I really don't understand it. It like just started happening. It started happening, gradually in my sleep, and then every time my blood pressure is checked, I just go berserk,
Yeah. Well, we hold the space that you begin to look at what that fear is about, and that you start to let loose of it, get free of it. We're not designed to live in trauma.
Yeah, so as I do the sheets, should that reveal what it's really all about?
That's what it will tend to do, yes. That's the whole idea, is to uncover and then to delete the root of those things that we, most of our lives, have been hiding from ourselves forever. So, yes, that's the idea.
Well, I'll do sheets on it, and I plan to be at the intensive. What would be a good time to call you today?
If you want to call me right after the show, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I'll be free immediately after the show.
Okay, I will give you a call.
Awesome. All right, we'll look forward to chatting with you. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Hit 1. Jeannie, do we have any callers or anything happening in the chat room?
No, there's nobody else with their hand up. No questions in the chat room. We're down to 9 minutes.
If there is anybody who has your hand up, but it's not showing up, if you'd let us know somehow, either by telling us in the chat room or calling me after the show. We have been having some difficulties with the call-in line, and so if you'd let us know about that, and if you've hit 1 and you're not showing up because nobody's showing up right now in the chat room, then oh, good. Well, it's working. Hooray!
Area code 352. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael.
352.
Hi.
Say again. Who is it? Say it one more time. You're cutting in and out.
Oh, this is Mary from Ocala.
Oh, hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Hi. So I was part of that intensive week that you were talking about, and
right.
I have to say, I would love to be where Linda is, and I'm not. It feels like I'm still so deep in the process of just figuring out which way's up. I'm like, okay, I know this works, but am I willing to do the worksheets? Am I willing to take the time? Am I willing to take ownership for the stuff? So I just thought I would.
I understand.
Call in to say, okay, you keep saying, okay, anybody out there to talk? Well, it's not so easy.
Well, no, and here would be my first thought is that if you remember in the codependent segment of the workshop, we talked about the pseudo-solutions of the non-being mind. One of the pseudo-solutions is, if I could just figure this out, you can't figure it out. It can't be figured out. When we get locked into our minds and our minds cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle, pretending that it's accomplishing something for us, my input is it's accomplishing nothing for us. All it is keeping us in the cycle of trauma. It's putting the pen to the paper to interrupt that cycle of trauma that has us keep trying to figure it out and moving into the forgiveness process to collapse that trauma and to get free of it.
Yep. Well, I would agree that finding ways to interrupt the trauma and the re-traumatization has been interesting, and just trying to push through, maybe that's not it. Discipline myself enough to do the worksheets to take the next step.
That's definitely part of the key. Now, I don't know if they actually have followed through or not, but there was an email sent out by one of the people in the intensive, and they were creating a support group and a phone call once a week. So I don't know if that's moved forward or not, but you might want to be part of that. And another good thing to do is to have an accountability partner, and I'd be delighted to be that partner for you. And if you'd like, at the end of the day or at the end of your 5th worksheet each day, I'd be delighted for you to just text me saying you've completed your 5th worksheet, and I'll be there to support you in keeping that commitment to yourself.
Well, I've been able to do 4 worksheets in a day, and I have not been able to get that other one started because I have this little bit about leaving a piece of paper only half used. And so it's just been that hard.
So my input would be then I'd do a worksheet on this I don't know whether it's a phobia or whatever it is about leaving a piece of paper half used. And what's my goal? You know, the worksheet might be on the piece of paper, it might be on myself, and what's my goal for myself? Well, I need to finish everything. And that might point you in the direction of an issue that might involve a power person, is this issue of finishing everything and or not being able to finish things. And so that might be a clue for you as to where another productive piece of work would be, is in this doing some worksheets around the issue of finishing or completing or, you know, using the full piece of paper.
Yeah. So my question is, where on the worksheet do you put that?
Well, if I were having the conversation you just had, then I'd start out, let's say, for instance, with a worksheet about me. And the worksheet would be, so my name would be at the top, number 1A, and then B would be I just hate leaving that page half finished or not complete.
Yeah, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, and then the feeling, when you look at that page and it's not completed, what's the feeling that comes for you? Is it helpless? Is it incomplete?
Frustration.
Frustration. Okay, so then
because I
frustration.
don't want, sort of like, I have all my completed worksheets in a nice little place, but the ones that are half done, I have to keep it in the undone package, and it's just, it's not really a big deal, but it's like, I just don't want to do 5. I want to do 4. I want to do 6, but I don't want to do 5. And maybe it's just I don't want to do what I don't want to do.
Yeah, well, and then the next worksheet that I'd start would be one on I'm not going to do what I'm told to do, no matter what.
Yeah.
So, did you have an issue with a power person about being told what to do?
Yes. Yes.
So that would be another good one. Would be to do some work around being told what to do, and being in resistance to being told what to do. So that could be a worksheet on your power person telling you what to do. Could be a worksheet on yourself and being in resistance to being told what to do. And a worksheet on following directions, a worksheet on keeping commitments. You know, there'd be several worksheets that you could start with that in mind.
Yep. Okay. That sounds doable.
Yeah. And I would be delighted to hear from you on a daily basis if you'd like to call in and just share with where it's at and how we can help you get moving in the next direction and get through and out the other side of this one.
Yeah. Well, I think that I know that there's more stuff up than just doing worksheets, but it's the detail of I'm not even doing what I know would help. So it's like, okay, let me see if I can start there with doing worksheets on worksheets and if I get on a commitment. And the idea of you being my accountability partner scares the hell into me. So that's another worksheet. I love you too, Michael.
Say it again?
I said the idea of you being my accountability partner scares the hell to me.
Right.
So there's another worksheet.
Okay. Another worksheet on fear. And I'll look forward to hearing from you with your text tonight about the 5th worksheet.
Don't hold your
okay.
breath. But I did like hearing the rundown of the things that you're going to be doing at Heartland and for that first 3 sessions. That kind of interests me. So I'll see where my life takes me and do my worksheets today.
Cool. Awesome. Well, actually, if you register, and I won't do this quickly because we've just got a few seconds left, but if you register for the Food, Fun, Work, and Forgiveness session, you can do that 9-day for a third. It's actually $575 for the 9-day to review it, and then the teacher's training, if that's what you're thinking about doing, that would be awesome. And to give you, that's almost a month. I think it's 28 days. And our time is up, and so maybe we need to continue this conversation tomorrow, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. And everybody, create the best year yet of your eternal lives. Lots of love. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.